Lesson 4.4 deals with dividing rational expressions. So we have just spent the last 3 lessons adding and subtracting and multiplying polynomials. So now we're going to divide polynomials. So we're going to divide a polynomial by a monomial. So that's the first blank there. We're going to review how to do this part, dividing a polynomial by a monomial. Monomial means one term, right? So if we were to divide, this is something you probably saw in Algebra 1, dividing each term by the denominator. And so one of the ways I like to explain to do it is to write the denominator under each one. So we separate it out. So I'm going to have 4x cubed y squared divided by 4xy. That's the first one. Plus 8xy squared divided by 4xy. Okay, so then we subtract 12x squared y squared divided by 4xy. So maybe when you were in algebra, you just divided each one by itself, or maybe you split it up like this, but I think you're less likely to miss something if you split it up like this, okay? So 4 over 4, does that get reduced to anything? Just 1, right? And then x cubed over x squared, x cubed over x is just x squared. Y squared divided by y is y. We are subtracting our exponents. Then I have 8 divided by 4, 2. The x's cancel. Y squared divided by y, subtract. 12 divided by 4 is x squared over x is x. Y squared over y is y. So this would be your simplified answer right here. Okay? So this is what you did in Algebra 1. So try part B. We'll see if we get the same answer. Nine over 18 reduces to what? Not 2. 1/2. Three over 18 reduces to what, Anthony?
6.
Not 6.
Wait, 3 over 18?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, these 5.
1 over 6. So 3 over 18 reduces to 1 over 6. The a squareds cancel, and I'm left with b squared on top. So we should have ab over 2 minus b squared over 6. Is that what you guys have? Yes, Darius? All right.
Why is AB up top?
So let's look at this. If I have a cubed and a squared, that leaves me an a where? I have 3 on the top and 2 on the bottom. So I have 1 left over on the top. And b squared over b leaves me with 1b left on the top. Right? Because you have b times b over b, that cancels, and you have 1 left in the numerator. 3 over 18 reduces to 1/6. A squared cancels. B cubed over B leaves you with B squared in the top.
what's that?
Exponent?
Yeah, the exponent.
Yes. That determines where you're going to be left over at.
Whether it's on top or bottom.
Right, because look, if I have 3 b's on the top and only 1 b on the bottom, when I cancel one out, where are my 2 b's left at?
Up top.
That's why. Because you had 3 on the top to begin with.
That's why I got confused.
Okay? All right, so this is what you did in Algebra 1. So now in Algebra 2, we're going to take it up a notch, if you will. And we're going to do division with a binomial. You have not done this yet in Algebra 1. We're going to use long division. And before you get too excited about it, please keep in mind that I understand that long division in elementary school is a struggle for most students. I understand that. Okay? So, again, long division might be a little bit tricky for you here. I'm going to ask you to continue to write your notes, not stop, not give up, but continue to write and try your best to listen to how I'm explaining it. Okay? I'm going to go really slow so that I don't lose you along the way. So, we have z squared plus 2z minus 24. If I divide that by z minus 4, that does not mean divide this by a z, divide this by a z, divide this by a z, and now divide this by a negative 4. That is not what this means. Okay? So that's why we have to do this a different way. Whatever comes first goes underneath your division box. So if you think about long division, you have that box there. Z squared plus 2z minus 24. This is called the dividend. The divisor is z minus 4, and that's going to go on the outside here. Okay, so this is how you would set it up. The binomial is always going to go on the outside. Okay? Now notice we are not missing any terms. Do you see how I go from squared to the first power to the constant? Do you see that? 2, 1, constant. You should always have a placeholder for every exponent. And we'll talk about what that looks like if we don't have it on problem number 2. Okay? So now, this is how we begin this. I want you to watch before you write. I'm going to ask myself, what do I have to multiply z by to get z squared? That's what I'm asking myself. And what do you guys multiply z by to get z squared? Z. Now, because it's just z to the first power, when we write it, it's going to go over the z to the first power column. See how this is z to the first power, this is z to the first power? So we line them up. I would not put it over here because this is the z squared column, right? So these would not match up. Okay? All right. Now, to get our number that we put underneath, I'm going to ask myself, z times z is what? Z squared. So again, that's going to go underneath the z squared. Then I'm going to ask myself, what is z times negative 4? What would you say? Negative 4z, and that's going to go underneath the z column. Do you guys see how they're lined up? You got your z squareds, you got your z's. You see that? No? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. All right, now this becomes a what kind of problem? Do you guys remember? Yes, a subtraction problem. So we subtract this, but watch. I'm going to put this in parentheses. Okay? So if I do z squared minus z squared, I get what? 0, right? So these cancel each other out.
Are you subtracting?
Yes. That's why there's a subtraction sign, right? Because we want to always subtract. Now, we have to be really careful. I have this subtraction sign and I have this subtraction sign. And so if I have this one and this one, what am I really going to be doing? What's minus a minus? You're really adding, right? So we're really changing this 4 to a positive 4. Now what is 2z plus 4z? 6z. Stay with me. Okay, so we're done for that round. How do we continue to go through a division problem? Do you guys remember?
Bring down the
Right, you got to keep bringing things down. So the next thing I'm going to bring down is this negative 24. Now I'm going to go back to the beginning, and I'm going to ask myself, what do I have to multiply z by to get 6z? 6, right? So I have to multiply z by a 6 to get 6z. Does that make sense? So I'm going to put that above the constant, right? It doesn't have a z with it. So I'm putting the 6 over there above the 24. And then I'm going to ask myself, 6 times z is what? 6z. Follow with me.
So you gotta multiply that.
6 times z to get 6z down there. And then 6 times a negative 4, negative 24. Now what are we really doing though?
Adding.
Are we, no,
Oh, we're trying to subtract.
we're subtracting, so let's put it in parentheses now. So we have a 6z minus 6z. That one cancels, right? Your first group should always cancel. Okay, your first column should always cancel. And then if I have negative 24 minus a negative, this really turns to a plus right here, right? So what's negative 24 plus 24? 0. Your answer is the z plus 6 up top. That means if you were to multiply z plus 6 times z minus 4, you should get this answer. Okay? So our answer here is just z plus 6. Put a box around it. Darius?
Alright, so you lost me when you went to the 6. Why is it, that makes no sense. If the 6z above is just positive 6,
Right?
and the bottom one's a negative 6,
Right. Cancels to be 0.
alright?
That's the
so-
goal, is to make them cancel.
And then you get to which is 24, which is just negative.
Okay? But it's a subtraction sign out here, so we have to distribute the subtraction sign, which creates a positive 24. We're going to do a few more examples I think you're going to catch on. Okay? So see if we can catch on with the next example. All right, letter B says t to the 5th minus 3t squared minus 20. And then we have this t minus 2 to the negative 1. Guys, this t minus 2 to the negative 1 is just a fancy way of saying divided by t minus 2. So again, this is just a fancy way of saying divided by t minus 2.
Why don't they just say that?
Right? Because they want you to be able to recognize different forms of division. Okay? Okay, so let's go ahead and set this up. We know that t minus 2 is going to go on the outside. Are we missing any terms? What are we missing?
4, 3.
We're missing a t to the 4th. Do you guys see that? And a t to the 3rd. So if we're missing it, we're going to put 0 in for it, because we have to have a placeholder. So I have t to the 4th, t to the 5th, plus 0 t to the 4th, plus 0 t cubed, minus 3t squared. Are we missing the t value? So we're going to put a 0t minus 20. Okay, so again, the reason we're doing that is because we are missing a t to the 4th term here, we're missing a t to the 3rd term, and we're missing a t here.
T minus 2 is supposed to be on the outside.
Oh, a 2. Where did I get the 5 from? Yes.
You did that, probably.
T minus 2. I'm sorry. I don't know why I put T minus 5. Okay, are you set up like this? Everyone set up? Okay. We are going to ask ourselves the same question like 6 times. What do I have to multiply t by to get t to the 5th? T to the 4th, right? What do you have to multiply t by to get t to the 5th? Well, we know that it's t to the 4th, so we're going to write t to the 4th above the t to the 4th column. And now begins the process. T to the 4th times t is what? T to the 5th. T to the 4th times negative 2. Negative 2t to the 4th. Okay? So one of the things that you can do, watch what I'm going to do up here with my subtraction sign. I know that I need to subtract this, which means I'm going to change this sign. So you can go ahead and do that if you want to. You're going to subtract this and change this sign. Or you can put it in parentheses and do it that way. T to the 5th minus t to the 5th cancels. 0t to the 4th plus 2t to the 4th is 2t to the 4th. How do we continue going through this problem? What do we do? Bring down the 0t cubed. Okay. Where do we go from here? Who remembers? Ask yourself the question. What do I have to multiply t by to get 2t to the 4th?
2t cubed.
Good. Does anyone agree with Justin?
Yes.
He said 2t cubed. So we're going to put that above the... Can you guys see that okay? 2t cubed. Now we're going to go back. What do I have to multiply? What do I have to multiply? 2t to the 3rd times t gives me... not t squared. 2t to the 4th. And then I have to do it times the 2. So 2t cubed times a negative 2. Negative 4t cubed. Excellent. Now we draw our line. Subtract, and then I can change that negative 4 to be a positive 4. These two cancel. I have 0t cubed plus 4t cubed is... Elena, can you wake your neighbor up, please? 4t cubed. How do we move on throughout this? Keep bringing things down, okay? Next one. Colt, grab your pencil, please. Bring down that next one. So I'm going to bring down negative 3t squared. And now, again, we go back and ask ourselves the question. What do I have to multiply t by to get 4t cubed? Think about it. What do I have to multiply t by to get 4t cubed? 4t squared. Okay, so that's going to... What did you say? It is. It should, yeah, that's exactly right, Chelsea. It should go in order like that. Yeah, you're exactly right. How's it going? 4, 3, 2? Yeah. Okay, so now we go back to the same process. 4t squared times t. Okay. 4t to the 3rd. And And then wow, I don't know what that was. 4t to the third, and then what is 4t squared times 2? Negative 8. Be careful with your multiplication. Anthony, put your phone away, please. Subtract. Add. This cancels, right? So we have 5t squared. What do we drop down next, Josh? Okay, how do we keep going through the problem? What do we drop down? Hang on. So Josh, we've already taken care of this one, this one, this one, this one, so now I need to take care of the... Good, so that's what I'm going to drop down is the 0t. Go back and ask ourselves a question. So when in doubt, ask yourself the question. What do I have to multiply t by to get 5t squared? What would you say, Cynthia? What do we multiply t by to get 5t squared?
5t squared?
Well, we already have a t, so just 5t.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so then 5t times t, 5t squared. 5t times negative 2 is what? Negative 10t. We're almost there, guys. Subtract and then change that. What's the last thing I bring down, Chelsea? That negative 20 drops down. And I ask myself, say it with me, everyone. What do I multiply? Thank you. What do I multiply t by to get 10t? 10. So that gives me 10t minus 20. But when I subtract it, I change my signs, and I have big fat 0. What?
I don't understand anything.
It's a good thing it's being recorded. You can go back and watch it again. We're going to do another one. This is going to be your final answer up here. Okay, this one was a long one. Let's do one more example, please. Again, stick with me. Why don't you see if you can set up numbers or letter C? Just set it up. See if you can set it up. Don't forget to find any missing terms, right? See if there are any missing terms in this one. Does it go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1? Or are you missing anything? You're missing something. We're missing which two terms? 3 and a 2, so we're going to put a 0 in for it. You can say that for me. I'll sleep 3 times. Yes. The constant? Yeah. So Elena asked a good question. If you don't have a constant, you would put a 0 in it, but we do have the constant in this one. Okay, so the C plus 2 is going to go on the outside. Whoa, too far up. Yes. Okay. So I have 3c to the 5th plus 5c to the 4th plus 0c cubed plus 0c squared plus c plus 5. Raise your hand if you have it set up this way, please. Excellent. Okay, so if you are having trouble and you would like to just watch how I work it, that would be fine. But I want you not to be sleeping or on your phone. Okay, so if you're just going to watch, that's fine. But I need you to be paying attention and talking it out with me. So we're going to ask ourselves, what do I multiply c by to get 3c to the 5th?
3c to the 4th.
3c to the 4th, and that's going to go above the c to the 4th column, right? Okay, now we're going to do 3c to the 4th times c. 3c to the 4th times 2. 6c to the 4th. Good. Now this time it's a little bit interesting because when I put my subtraction, watch what happens. This one becomes subtraction. And if that was in parentheses, what would the 6 become? A negative, right? So that's going to become a negative. So that's new. Usually we've been changing them to positive because they were already negative. So now my 3c to the 5th is gone. What is 5 minus 6? It's 5 minus 6 going to give you there? Good. Negative 1c to the 4th. Excellent. Then we go back and ask ourselves. Wait, before we ask, what do we have to move down?
0c.
Good. Plus 0c cubed. Okay, what do I multiply c by to get negative 1c to the 4th? Negative 1. We know that part. Negative 1 c to the 3rd. And Chelsea made a great point. She said the exponents keep going down, right? And so if you're not sure what number of exponent, just put the next one that's less than, right? So we just did c to the 4th, so we know we're going to have to use c to the 3rd, okay? So negative 1c to the 3rd times c is negative 1c to the 4th. Negative 1c to the 3rd times 2, 2c to the 3rd. We're really subtracting this. So if I subtract it, this turns to plus and this turns to plus, right? Our c to the 4ths cancel. We have 2c cubed. Good. Brianna's reminding us now we need to bring down this 0c squared. Keep going. If you think you can finish the problem out, go ahead and try it, and then we'll see if we get the same answer. Okay? If you're stuck, remember we're going to ask ourselves, always go back to it. What do we multiply c by to get 2c cubed? Darius, what would we multiply c by to get 2c cubed? Okay, what constant? What number in front? What coefficient?
2c squared.
Good, plus 2c squared. So that's the number we write up there. Then how do I keep going through the problem? Do you remember? That's when we do the multiplying thing, right? So 2c squared times c gives me 2c cubed. 2c squared times 2, 4c squared. We always subtract. These are going to cancel, but notice if I subtract an addition problem, it really means this one becomes negative. So this should really be negative 4c squared. Justin, how do I keep going through the problem? If I have my negative 4c squared, how am I going to continue?
Bring c down.
Excellent. Bring the c down. Okay, Darius, what do I ask myself? To make what? whatever this first one is down here. So what do I have to multiply c by to get negative 4c squared? And what would you say? Negative 4c. Yep, good. What do we do next? Good. Excellent. That little rainbow thing, right? Negative 4c times 4. Negative 4c squared. Negative 4c times 2. Negative 8c. You okay so far? I really am subtracting it, which means these two cancel, because that's a negative negative makes a plus. And this turns to plus, because I distribute my negative sign. So I'm getting 9c. Last step would be to bring down that 5. What do I multiply c by to get 9c? What would you say? 9. So when I multiply 9 times c, I get, 9c. And what happens when I multiply 9 times 2? I get 18. And I'm really subtracting it. This cancels. What is 5 minus 18? Negative 13. So the problem is this didn't come out evenly. I have a negative 13 left over. Do you guys remember how to handle it if you have a...
Remainder of negative.
Okay, we did the little r. Do you guys remember that? In elementary you did like the little r, remainder 13 or something like that? Okay, so instead of doing the little r, we're going to write it as a fraction. We write it as a fraction, so it's minus 13 over
C plus 2.
whatever we divided by, which is the c plus 2. That's how you would write the division answer. So remainders are okay. You always write them as a fraction. So is long division super easy? No. Okay, but it's the same process over and over and over again. All right? Sometimes you'll have a remainder and sometimes you won't. In your homework, it tells you which one's a remainder and which one is not. Oh, wait. You'll have 2 with 1 and 2 without. Okay, now that you've learned long division, let's make life a little easier, shall we?
A lot easier. Synthetic's a lot easier.
All right. Second half of your notes. Stick with me. We're only doing one lesson today.
So how'd you write that minus 13 over?
C plus 2, whatever we divided by. Okay. We have this thing called synthetic division. When you think of synthetic, what do you think of?
Fake.
Fake. Okay? So we're going to be doing what's called fake division. So this process actually looks nothing like division. All right? And I show you this second because if I show you this first, you would never do long division. But you need to know how to do both because I'm stretching your mind. And if you don't ever exercise your brain, it'll turn to mush. Okay. Synthetic division focuses on the coefficients. Someone remind me, what is a coefficient?
Numbers 5, negative 15, 10.
Say that again, Chelsea. The number in front of the variable. Okay? So that's what we're focusing on is the numbers in front of the variable. It says if a term is missing, still don't forget to fill in 0. So again, just like long division, if something is missing, we're still going to fill it in with a 0. Okay? So step number 1, there are 2 steps. Step number 1 is to find what I call the pocket. The pocket number from the divisor. So we take the divisor, which is x minus 2. We always set it equal to 0. And you get x to be 2. 2 now is my pocket number. And by pocket number, I mean it's going to look like this. We're going to stick it in a little pocket. Second step is to line up the coefficients. Are we missing any terms? I have x cubed, x squared, x, and then my constant. Okay, so the coefficients for that were just 5, negative 13, 10, and 8, negative 8, right? Leave a little bit of a space and draw a line underneath it. Right. This is probably brand new to most of you, so just watch how this process goes and you'll be able to pick it up. Okay, the first term always comes down, otherwise we can't get started. If we don't bring that first one down, we're not going to be able to get started. Okay, and then I'm going to do my pocket number times that bottom number. So 2 times 5 is what? 10. That's where I put the 10. I'm going to add these together. So what's negative 13 plus 10? Negative 3. Then I go back to my pocket. 2 times negative 3 is what? That's going to go underneath the 10 here. Add these together. Gives you 4. Then I go back again to the pocket. 2 times 4 is 8. If I add those together, I get 0. These become my new coefficients for my variables. So if we look back at the original problem, I started with x cubed, but I divided out an x from each one of these. So I'm not going to start with x cubed. What would be x cubed divided by x? X squared. So that's what I start with. So this is 5x squared minus 3x plus 4. I just distribute an x to each of them and I cut off a degree each time. Darius?
Okay, now, what do you mean? Why did negative 3 only get one hit?
Because I've already given out an x squared. So look back over here to the original problem. If I have this is my x cubed and I divide out an x, I get x squared. If I have x squared, I divide out an x, I get x. If I have an x and I divide out an x, I just have my constant. So that's what we're doing each time. We're taking out an x. That's going to be your answer.
So much faster.
So much easier.
Okay, let's try letter E, please. So step number 1 is to set up your pocket number. So again, you're going to do x minus 3 equals 0. Line up your coefficients, but what do you notice on this one? What are we missing? We're missing our x squared, right? So I would maybe put 0x squared, 0x over here so you know that you need to put in zeros for them. So my x cubed has an exponent of 1. X squared is 0. X is 0. And then I have a negative 27. Okay, so this is my, if you look back at the original, this is my x cubed. I don't have x squared, so I put a 0 in it. This is my x. I don't have it, so I put a 0 in. And this is the constant that I have. How do we get started?
Bring down your
The first one drops, right? If it doesn't drop, you don't have any way to get started. So we have our 1. Good. 3 times 1? 3. We add, you're always going to add these together, this row. These 2 rows you will always add together. So 0 plus 3 is 3. Go back to your pocket. 3 times 3. 9. Add those together. Go back to your pocket. 3 times 9.
27.
27. Add those together. Nope, it will not. And letter F will show us what to do when that happens, okay? So I don't start with x cubed, right? Because I divided an x out of every term. So I'm going to start with what instead?
1x squared.
Good, x squared. So yeah, you don't have to put the 1 if you don't want to, because it means the same thing. So I have x squared plus 3x plus 9. What'd you say?
Isn't it 1x cubed?
Nope, because remember, we're dividing an x out of each one of these things, right? The problem says divide an x out of this one, divide an x out of this one, and x out of this one. So our exponents are dropping out each time. We're taking out an x. We're dividing out an x each time. Okay, so any questions on letter E? Okay, last example. Let's do letter F. Set it up. The pocket number, this time, it's -3. Are you missing any terms? You're missing a fourth, so I'm going to put 0x to the fourth, and I'm missing x squared, right? So I'm going to put a 0 in for them. Okay, do you see if I go from 5 to 3, I didn't even do the x to the fourth term? I have x to the fifth, and I have -7x cubed. I jumped from an exponent of 5 to an exponent of 3. There is nowhere that says x to the fourth. You don't see that? Okay.
I'll talk to you about that.
Now look. From here to here, I have a 5, and then I have a 3, right?
Yeah.
Do you have anything that says x to the fourth? Okay, so it's missing, right? X to the fourth is missing. But you can't forget about it. You have to include it. But if it's missing, that means it's representing 0. So we can say 0x to the fourth because it's not there. And 0 times anything is what? So really, that's not there. We're just using it as a placeholder. And then the same thing happens from here to here. I have a 3 to a 1. Do I have the 0x squared? I don't have it, but I have to include it in the problem. So I'm going to use 0 as the placeholder for it. Because again, 0 times anything is just 0, so it's not really there. But we're going to use 0 to hold the place for it. Okay, if you think you can do it, go ahead and start it. Yes? Is it always what?
Subtraction, like when you do the -3 times 1 and you put it under.
You're always going to add it. It's always addition.
I think I got it done already. I got that, I think, right.
So for those of you that maybe are struggling with this, you can put above it x to the fifth, x to the fourth, x cubed, so you don't miss anything. X squared, x, and then your constant. That might be helpful for some of you. Okay, again, how do I get started? Drop the first one. -3 times 1, -3, and we always add these together. So that gives me -3. Go back to the pocket number, -3 times -3, 9. Add those together, gives me a 2. Go back to the pocket, -3 times 2, -6. Add these together. Go back to the pocket, -3 times -6 is 18. 18 plus 1 is 19. It's okay to have some bigger numbers. -3 times 19, -57. So then when we add 1 to it, we get a -56. Emily Harris, which exponent are we going to start with? X to the what power?
X to the fifth.
Okay, so we started with x to the fifth in the original, right? Over here we have an x to the fifth in the original. But if I'm going to divide an x out of each one of these, what's going to happen?
It would be subtracting each x, so we start with x to the fourth.
There you go. We start with x to the fourth. So this becomes x to the fourth minus 3x cubed. I just go down the line. 2x squared minus 6x. Now, what do I do with these two things?
There's gonna be a remainder.
Negative 56 is a remainder, right? It's not a constant, it's a remainder. So we have plus 19.
Are we doing 56 over x plus 3?
Remember with a remainder, 56 over whatever we divided by, which was the x minus 3. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong problem. You're right. X plus 3. This would be your answer here.
So the 19 is your what now?
Constant. A constant is a number that does not have a variable with it. Okay. Questions?